In the fall of 2015, I started college in a tiny town that looked like it had been left behind by time. The whole place existed only because of the state college. 20,000 students surrounded by fields that stretched forever into the Great Plains. At night the streets were empty, and the prairie wind whispered through dead corn stalks like someone muttering in the dark. I stood out immediately. Since I was 15, I had been into tarot, herbs, and the kind of practices locals here whispered about in church parking lots. In the dorms, that reputation spread fast. First came the jokes, then the requests. Read my cards, tell me my future. Before long I was the girl who sees. That's how I fell in with 6 others: sharp-eyed Lana Emerson, her best friend Arden, impulsive Faye, confident Nora, moody Eli, and bubbly Rosie. They'd been close for years, and I was folded into their circle like a shiny new toy. When I showed them my tarot deck one November evening, their eyes lit up like moths at a flame. We gathered in the basement lounge, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, a soda machine flickering like it was half alive. On the table, Kit Kats, Coke cans, notebooks forgotten. I laid out the cards. There's always that moment when the room goes still and someone realizes the spread is pulling at the threads they thought were hidden. Goosebumps rose on their arms. They stared at me like I had peeled back their skin and shown them their insides. After that, they wanted more. I read cards, palms, even told stories about herbs and protection rituals. They drank in every word. I shared too much: childhood abuse, times I should have died, how my own mother once tried to smother me in my sleep. They gripped my hands, whispering, "Now you're one of us." Our little meetings became longer, darker. We stayed up in empty study rooms until the lights dimmed, my voice echoing off cinderblock walls. I taught them about intention, energy, love, and the rule I repeated like a shield: never take away someone's free will. At the time, I thought I had found my tribe. Looking back, I had walked straight into something hungrier. For months, things were smooth. Meals together, late-night laughs, the kind of closeness that feels intoxicating. But in the spring, everything began to unravel, slow at first, like a rope fraying strand by strand. Eli, who was transitioning, had been on testosterone for months but hadn't had top surgery yet. He struggled with identity, with family rejection, with mental health. One day, just before spring break, he showed up on campus in a dress and heels. I didn't think much of it. It was his life, his body. But the others froze. After Eli left, Arden muttered, "Something's wrong with him." Lana nodded. Nora sneered, "He's stringing along Faye and me both. It's like he isn't even himself." Their words tumbled faster, sharper, until the whisper turned to a hiss. "Maybe it's magic." I tried to laugh it off. "Love spells? Come on. You don't mess with free will." But Lana and Nora looked at each other with the same cold gleam, the kind of look people get when they've found an excuse for their anger. By spring break, I was staying at Rosie's house. Her kitchen smelled like cinnamon and dust, and I tried to shut down the talk. I even suggested we do simple protection charms, salt lines, braided threads. They agreed half-heartedly. But on the drive back to campus, Nora whispered, "He needs to be cleansed." Rosie's eyes lit up. Exorcism. The word sat heavy in the air, like a stone on my chest. I tried hiding in my room, claiming I was behind on schoolwork. For a few days it worked. Then one night Lana and Faye rushed past me in the hall, pale and frantic. Moments later, Arden stumbled by, eyes wet. "Eli admitted it. He's possessed. We have to help." My stomach dropped. I ran to Eli's dorm. Rosie and Nora stood guard at the door, blocking me like bouncers. "You can't go in," Nora snapped. "He's dangerous. If you're really doing this," I said, "then you need someone sane in there." After tense silence, they let me through. What I saw froze me. Eli was tied to the bed frame, wrists raw against the ropes, tears streaking his face. A half-burned bundle of sage smoked on a paper plate. Symbols were scrawled on notebook paper taped to the walls. Rosie clutched a battered occult book, whispering words she didn't understand. "I'm sorry," Eli sobbed. I didn't know there was something inside me. There isn't, I snapped. But no one was listening. That's when I saw the knife. Bronze-colored, with a dark crust along the edge. It rested in a dining hall bowl filled with salt and something red. My eyes darted to Rosie's sleeve, where a bloody bandage peeked out. For a second, the world went silent. Just the faint buzzing of the overhead light, the rasp of Eli's breathing. This wasn't a game anymore. I grabbed the knife, slashed through the ropes, and yanked Eli's hand free. Get up! Now! Nora screamed. Faye lunged, but Arden backed away, suddenly pale, as if even he realized what they'd become. I dragged Eli out into the hall, slammed the door, and bolted for my room. I called his mother with shaking fingers. Come get him! Immediately! An hour later she arrived. Eli left without looking back. My phone blew up that night, calls, texts, threats, pleas. I ignored them all. Only Lana appeared in person, eyes glassy, whispering, You're special. If the wrong people ever take power, they'll hunt you. Your mother knew. That's why she tried to end you. I nodded until she left. Then I filled out transfer paperwork and was gone within the month. It all made sense only later. The way they hung on every word, the way they nodded when I joked. The sky is green. As if truth bent when I spoke it. They didn't want friends. They wanted a prophet. And when their own bitterness demanded blood, they decided Eli was possessed. Sometimes, late at night, I still hear whispers in the dorm vents of my new college, words in a language I don't know. I close the window and sprinkle salt on the sill. Not because I fear demons, but because I know what humans can do once they convince themselves you're the devil. In the spring of 2019, my partner, my younger brother, and two close friends planned a weekend trip to Kansas City for a concert. We booked an Airbnb at the last minute, one of those too good to be true listings. The house sat in a quiet suburb called Grandview, a place we'd never heard of. The host had good reviews, nothing suspicious. At least, not at first glance. When we pulled up, the first thing we noticed was the yard. Crosses, statues of saints, and wooden signs with verses leaned against the porch rail. A faint hymn played from inside, though no one was visible at the windows. We laughed it off nervously. After all, we were in the Bible Belt. Still, we were a group of queer friends heading to a gay country concert, and something about those watchful statues made the back of my neck prickle. The host, a woman in her late 50s, greeted us with a smile too wide and eyes that didn't quite match it. She showed us around the basement suite where we'd be staying. 2 bedrooms, a small sitting area, and a binder of house rules. Everything looked neat, normal. We unpacked, ordered food, tried to relax. For a while it worked. Then my brother opened a dresser drawer. Inside was a Bible, nothing strange, until a packet of silver foil slipped out from its pages and hit the carpet. My brother picked it up, froze, then shoved it back. None of us said the word out loud, but we all knew what it was: hard drugs. Hidden in a Bible. We agreed, silently, to put it back and act like nothing had happened. The air in the room shifted. The suite, once cozy, now felt like a trap. Later, while flipping through the binder of rules, my partner found a line that unsettled him. We will respect your privacy as long as you respect ours. If you are curious about the ministries of God, please reach out. I brushed it off, but he couldn't shake it. When we left for the concert that night, he chose to stay behind, locking the bedroom door. Out of boredom, and maybe paranoia, he started poking around more. On the shelves were books with titles like How Women Should Think and The Spiritual Order of Marriage. One pamphlet bore the name of a group neither of us had heard of before, the International House of Prayer. When we returned late from the concert, he looked pale. We're staying in one of their houses, he whispered. At first we thought he was exaggerating, until he showed us the group's website. The hosts' names matched leaders listed there. The next day, our unease deepened. Tucked in the corner of the basement were 2 plastic barrels, emergency food supplies. Nearby sat gallon jugs of a cloudy liquid labeled only fasting water. Pamphlets and teaching manuals lay stacked in boxes, covered in dust. It looked less like an Airbnb and more like the storeroom of a doomsday cult preparing for the end of the world. That night, curiosity got the better of me. I scrolled back further into the Airbnb reviews. The most recent ones were glowing, but a few older comments had slipped through, mentions of uncomfortable conversations about God, of the host pulling a gun, as a warning, of strange noises from upstairs at night. In each case, the host had left a cutting, almost mocking reply. We barely slept. Every creak of the old house sounded deliberate, every shadow in the hallway stretched too long. None of us wanted to admit it out loud, but we were afraid of what these people believed, and what they might be willing to do to outsiders under their roof. For the rest of the trip, we spent as much time away from the Airbnb as possible, eating at greasy diners until midnight, loitering in coffee shops just to avoid going back. We survived the weekend without direct confrontation, but the memory of that house, those barrels, and the watchful saints on the lawn never left me. Even now, years later, when I see an Airbnb with Christian family home in the description, my chest tightens. I picture that basement suite, the packet falling from the Bible, and the hosts who smiled as if they already knew the end was coming. We were lucky. We only brushed against their world. But for a few nights in Grandview, Missouri, it felt like we were sleeping in the belly of a cult waiting for the rapture. My brother Adam and I have always been close. I'm 3 years older, but he's the one people describe as gentle, kind to a fault. He still lives in the same small town where we grew up, just a few houses down from our parents. I see him almost every day. That's why when he came over one afternoon, eyes bright with a secret, I listened. He told me a friend had set him up on a blind date. The girl's name was Clara. He described her with reverence. Tall, strikingly beautiful, long blonde hair, green eyes like glass bottles. He hadn't dated in years, and the way he spoke about her felt different, like he'd stumbled onto something he didn't dare believe was real. The date, he said, went better than he could have hoped. They laughed, they talked for hours. But at the end, Clara asked something strange. Would he come meet her family? They had a business, and maybe they could offer him work. I frowned. Sounds like some pyramid scheme, I warned. He laughed. If it is, I'll leave. Don't worry. A few nights later, Adam texted me. It wasn't MLM. But you won't believe what it was. According to him, he showed up at Clara's family home expecting an awkward dinner. Instead, there were 11 women inside, Clara's sisters, her aunt, and a handful of others whose connections weren't clear. He was the only man in the room. They gave him tea, made small talk, almost festive. But then the atmosphere shifted. A woman in her 40s, whom they called Aunt Miriam, clapped her hands. The chatter died instantly. Everyone sat in silence, eyes fixed on her. Adam, confused, followed suit. Miriam opened a worn leather-bound book. She began to speak, not quite English, not quite anything he recognized. Fragments of verses surfaced between guttural sounds. Some of the women closed their eyes, swaying. Others whispered responses under their breath. Then she called Adam forward. He stood awkwardly by her side as the women passed around a wicker basket, dropping in cash, jewelry, envelopes. The pile grew. The sound of paper crinkling in the silence made his skin crawl. When the basket returned to Miriam, she placed it at Adam's feet. They sang after that. He told me, voice low. It wasn't a hymn. It was something else. The notes bent in ways I didn't think voices could bend. My ears hurt. I felt dizzy, like I was being pulled out of myself. Afterward, the mood snapped back. The women laughed, poured more tea, wandered through the house as if nothing had happened. Adam, shaken, stayed quiet. An hour later, most of them left. He stayed behind to help Clara tidy up. That's when Miriam returned, basket still full. She pushed it toward him. This is yours now, she said. He froze. I can't take this. Her smile didn't falter. If you come back every week, you'll receive more. The family takes care of its men. The words should have sounded kind. Instead, Adam said they felt like chains clicking shut. He asked Clara later what the ritual had been. She brushed it off. Just tradition. A family thing. It's important that you come back. Her insistence carried an edge, not quite a threat but close. Adam didn't go back. He blocked her number, her socials, everything. When he told me all this, he was pale, trembling, but trying to laugh it off. I didn't laugh. My stomach twisted as I pieced it together. The chanting in a language he didn't know, the offering basket, the pressure to return. A cult. Not the kind you read about in history books. This was quiet, hidden in plain sight, nestled inside an ordinary neighborhood. A net cast wide, hoping to pull in someone vulnerable. But what haunts me most is what Adam left unsaid. He mentioned the voices bending out of tune, pulling at him, making him feel hollow. He never told me what the women's eyes looked like in that moment, if they were glassy, unblinking, fixed on him like prey. He also never told me what was inside that leather book Miriam read from. Some nights, I lie awake imagining him standing there, the only man in a room full of women chanting in a tongue no one speaks, a basket of money at his feet. I imagine what would have happened if he had taken it. It was a winter show I'd been waiting years to see. Two siblings who almost never toured, indie royalty with a cult following and lyrics that felt like confessions. My friends went in ahead to stake out a spot near the barricade. My rideshare crawled through traffic and dropped me off 30 minutes late. Inside, the venue was a cavern of glittering phones and warm breath, the air smelling like beer and spilled perfume. Strobe watched the crowd in slow-motion waves. I was weaving forward, half excuse me, half apology, when a woman's hand clamped around my forearm. She was in her late 40s, maybe early 50s. Smooth face, too sweet smile, eyes that didn't blink enough. "What's your name, dear?" she asked, as if we were in a quiet foyer and not a thunderous hall. A girl my age hovered at her shoulder, perfectly still, like a reflection, same bone structure, same pale hair pulled into a tight braid. I lied. "Jenna," I said. "Meeting friends up front. You're welcome to stay with us," the woman offered, tightening her fingers before letting go. "I'm Evelyn. This is Mara. We can help you get closer when the lights change." It was a kind voice, but there was something practiced about it, like a salesman's patter. I forced a smile and kept moving. I found my friends 3 songs later, breathless and relieved, laughing off the weirdness. We sang. We swayed. For a while, the world shrank to the stage. Halfway through, I slipped out to pee. One friend detoured to the bar for drinks. We split at the corridor. The bathroom line curled like a spine down the hallway. I scrolled my phone, zoned out, and when I looked up, Evelyn and Mara were there. No sounds of footsteps approaching, no "Hey again!" Just there. Mara's eyes went straight to my chest. "I love your necklace," she said. "Is that quartz?" "Smoky quartz." I touched it out of reflex. "It's a powerful stone," Evelyn said, "for blocking toxic energy." "Did you know crystals remember prayers?" I made a polite noise that meant please stop. "People talk to you in lines. It happens." But the way she angled her body, the way Mara mirrored it, I felt penned in without quite being touched. We lead a small circle. Evelyn continued. Guided meditation, release of fear, all rooted in a beautiful text called A Course in Miracles. We practice forgiveness that actually works, not the kind that just buries pain. She smiled. "You'd be perfect." "I'm slammed during the holidays," I said. "No time, sorry." "It's short," Mara said quickly. 40 minutes. You can sit in the back. Just to see. Evelyn pulled a business card from her coat. It was pearly white, embossed with a dove. No address, just a phone number, a first name, and the words, "The Study." She held it a fraction too close to my face. I didn't take it. Evelyn's tone shifted by a degree. Give us your number then. We'll text the time. You can come late, leave early. I don't give out my... I began. Mara already had her phone out, screen glowing, contact app open, cursor blinking in the name field. She lifted it toward me like a communion cup. I'm waiting for a friend, I said, trying to step sideways. The line shuffled. I didn't move an inch. Evelyn's smile didn't falter. We'll find you after the show, she said lightly, in case you change your mind. I won't, I said too fast. My friend rounded the corner with 2 plastic cups at that exact moment. I seized one, murmured thanks, and the current of people finally tugged me around the bend. When I looked back, the 2 of them were still there, watching, not waving, until the crowd swallowed them. Back with my group, I told them everything. We agreed it was creepy. We agreed to leave a few minutes early to beat traffic and, not incidentally, to avoid a second encounter. We watched the last chorus with our bags already on our shoulders. As the stage lights flared for the bow, we slipped out a side exit into the cold. No one followed. We laughed, jittery and victorious, as we walked the slick sidewalk to the rideshare pickup. 2 days later, a flyer was tucked under my apartment door. No postage, no envelope. A dove. The study. The same number. I didn't call. I tossed it. But curiosity is a hungry animal, it gnawed. I searched A Course in Miracles and skimmed an audiobook. The voice in my headphones spoke of fear and illusion, of guilt erased by true sight, of teachers and students. Some of it sounded gentle. Some of it sounded like a net. I mentioned the bathroom line encounter to my sister on a phone call. She went quiet. We had 2 girls on campus, she said. They offered free healing meditation in the student union. One friend went. They talked about Christ, not church Christ, but proprietary Christ. Doors were shut. They asked for a donation before anyone could leave. How much? Whatever your fear is worth, my sister said. Creepiest sentence I've ever heard. That stuck under my skin. Whatever your fear is worth. How much, exactly, is panic worth in a locked room? I started seeing the study everywhere after that. Not literally, not like a movie, just small echoes. A stack of the same doves at a vegan cafe. A woman on the train with a dove pin who asked if I'd ever forgiven properly. Ads in my feed for course circles that gathered in softly lit living rooms, always with tea, always with a promise to end pain the way a hand snuffs a candle. I could have chalked it up to the algorithm. I tried to. A week later, I woke up at 2 a.m. to the sound of my buzzer, long and unbroken. I sat up, heart racing, and waited. It didn't come again. The security camera app on my phone showed only the grainy lobby, empty, lights humming. When I fell back asleep, I dreamed of a crowded hallway where the line never moved and the 2 women stood inches away, smiling, smiling, smiling. The next night, my downstairs neighbor texted, "Did you buzz in 2 women? Mid-40s and 20-ish?" Said the name. Evelyn. I stared at the screen until the letters blurred. I typed no and put my phone face down. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe they'd mixed up apartments. Maybe they were selling pamphlets, or gathering emails, or looking for a different Jenna. Or maybe the lie I told in that thrumming venue, my fake name, had been a sodden match, tossed and forgotten. And maybe Evelyn and Mara had pockets full of dry kindling and all the patience in the world. I changed my route to work. I ignored unknown numbers. I took off the necklace for a while, then put it back on because fear is just another leash and my neck had worn enough of those. When the siblings announced another tour date months later, my friends asked if I wanted to go. I said yes. I said of course. I said I wouldn't let 2 strangers take a song from me. At the show, a woman brushed my arm in the crowd. I flinched before I saw her face. It wasn't Evelyn. The woman muttered sorry and vanished into the music. I breathed out slow. The lights went down. The first note bloomed like a wound and then like a blessing. And in the dark, pressed shoulder to shoulder with strangers, I thought about doors that lock from the outside, and baskets passed hand to hand, and smiles that don't touch eyes, and the sacred quiet of saying no and meaning it. When the encore ended, we didn't leave early. We walked out with everyone else, into the cold, into the ordinary night. On the walk to the car, a white card skittered along the curb in the wind and slapped against my boot. A dove. Pearly. No address. Just a number. I didn't pick it up. I kept walking. The card slid in the gutter behind me, turning slowly in the streetlight, like an eye deciding where to look next. I was 17, exhausted, and convinced my life was already a closed room with no doors. Fridays at the factory were half days, which meant half a day of wandering the city with a pocket full of pamphlets from recruiters who smiled too widely. Police. Army. Navy. Air Force. Even the Red Cross. I wanted escape like other people want sleep. That was when I saw the sign. Free personality test. Find your true self. Above it, in gilt letters, the Church of Radiant Mind. I had heard things, the way you hear about storm warnings for a town you don't live in. But curiosity is a hunger that pretends to be wisdom. I went in. A receptionist with a gentle voice asked how she could help. I want to know what this is, I said, trying to sound older than I was. She led me to a man in a gray suit with a weatherless smile. I'm Victor Hale, he said, head of the center. His office smelled like lemon cleaner and old paper. A sepia portrait of the founder hung above the desk, eyes forever mirthless. I told Victor everything, how work hollowed me out, how I felt like a misfiled person. He listened the way a hunter listens to brush in the dark. Then he slid the test across the desk. Most people finish in an hour, he said. It took me 500 questions that rang like coins dropped down a well. Do you doubt yourself? Do you often revisit closed doors? Do you harbor unprocessed blame toward family? When I finally handed the papers to the receptionist, she smiled and said the results would take some time. Meanwhile, Victor had arranged for me to watch a film. They had a small private theater, velvet seats, a screen too large for the room, a projector that hummed like a tired bee. The movie was 30 minutes of polished unease, reenactments of people failing because of buried incidents, a narrator promising that the past could be exorcised from the present. A mother nauseous on a flight, while pregnant becomes the reason her son fears airplanes. A fight over rotten eggs in a kitchen becomes the reason a woman distrusts intimacy. Neat, cruel math. When the lights came up, Victor was waiting with my results. He didn't slide them across the desk. He announced them like a verdict. Severely depressed, he said softly. Unmotivated. Wasting potential. But I can help you. Books appeared, 4 of them, with smooth, strange titles, and a DVD. There was a course starting in a month, he said. He spoke about clearing, about unblocking cognition, about levels. Each word felt like it fit into a slot and locked. I gave him more money than made sense. It felt like buying a bridge out of town. That weekend, I devoured the books. I watched the DVD twice, then 3 times, pausing to take notes on myself. The text had a way of arranging your memories like furniture in an unfamiliar room. Suddenly everything looked deliberate, accusatory. I began to believe my mother was the cause of my failures. The word they used for a person like her was so clean, so easy, it made my mouth feel new. When I wrote to Victor, he encouraged distance. You must remove suppressive influences, he said. Your progress depends on it. I wasn't just angry at my mother, I was triumphant about it. Power is a warm fever. I wore it for a week. My parents found the books. My father pulled the DVD from its case and held it like it was something alive and mean. We screamed, hours of it, all the words that should have been said gently, now sharpened and thrown. In the end, they did the only kind thing left. They asked me to stay. They made tea. They told me they loved me more than any system, more than any church. The next morning I emailed Victor. I wouldn't be returning. His reply arrived in minutes. Was it my family? Was I being coerced? He sent more messages, each one more frantic, more intimate. Leave your house now. We can shelter you here. Your mother is the cause. Then, I won't be surprised if I read that you harmed yourself. This is what happens when people refuse their only path. I didn't answer. The emails kept arriving from new addresses, new names. We've reviewed your case. We want to help you finish ascending. A message came entirely in ones and zeros. I ran it through a translator out of morbid curiosity and got garbage, letters thrown like teeth in a bowl. I blocked and blocked and blocked again. Months passed. Then, twice a year like clockwork, another worried stranger from the Church of Radiant Mind found me. Different signatures, the same cadence. How are you? Are you safe? Are you ready to resume your progress? Sometimes I dreamed of the theater, the projector buzzing, dust drifting through the beam like tiny souls. In the dream, a second door appeared at the front of the room. Victor gestured toward it, smiling. When I walked through, it wasn't an exit. It was the same room, only the portrait on the wall was newer, and the eyes were mine. I am older now. Happy even. I learned to say the ordinary spells that really work. I'm not interested. No, thank you. Please leave. I learned that love is not a course and that forgiveness doesn't require a ledger. I learned that a free test is a toll booth with no posted price. But sometimes, on dull afternoons, I still feel the phantom weight of those books in my hands. I remember how easily a lonely kid can be convinced that the people who know them best are the problem and a stranger with a practiced smile is the cure. I remember Victor's voice, gentle, inexorable, as he slid the future across the desk like a contract. If you're reading this because you're lost, you don't need a church that measures your pain to prove they can cure it. You need someone who will sit with you in your small room and open a window. And Victor, if this somehow reaches you, be grateful that some doors close forever. You taught me what monsters look like when they wear tidy suits and use kind words. You taught me how to refuse them. You taught me how to leave.